Hi, Doug Coleman here, Nature Foundation at Wintergreen. Every year around annual meeting time, I try to talk a little bit about what we accomplished during the year. But starting today, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about our forests and our foliage that are extremely beautiful this time of year. So I'm going to step aside a bit and point out some things. We're looking south from Devil's Knob toward Three Ridges Mountain, and we have incredible patterns of color in the landscape. And I want to share that with you. I'm going to step aside a bit. So if we look south toward Three Ridges, and we understand that Wintergreen runs all the way to this valley below us. So living at Wintergreen is like living in a national park because we're looking out into protected land here, which is really cool. But the seasonal piece is important because what you're seeing now are patterns in the landscape. It's so clear to see. The ridge lines are turning brown and bare. And that's because rock is very close to the surface. It is drier, and you have a different suite of trees in those ecosystems. So in the fall, the ridgelines turn color first and lose their leaves first. And as you pan across there, you begin to see patterns because the ravines are now showing color. And these ravines are mostly tulip poplar coves. But you can see here, to the right of this, here's the Reeves Gap Road coming down from the parkway. That's a ravine, more moisture. And as you look across there, every time there's a space between ridges, you see color. And perhaps the best example is here to the left. That's Fortune's Ridge. You can see the chestnut oak ecosystem coming up there, and all of a sudden, you still have color, and there's moisture in the ravine, and those are probably maples and tulip poplars. But it's a really interesting study in the landscape, and Wintergreen Drive has never been more beautiful. It is just an awesome time of year. And the thing to remember is that in the spring, the color creeps up the mountain, and in the fall, it creeps back down. Okay, now we're looking north or northeast. And we're looking across to the Rockfish Valley, and then Crawford's Knob, and then the skyline runs along the mountain line, and it becomes Blue Ridge Parkway with Humpback Mountain up there. But all of this is part of Wintergreen, and between the last shot and this one, the total distance north and south here is probably 10 miles. And it's really funny because you can almost measure Wintergreen in terms of square miles instead of acreage. Wintergreen is, let's see, probably close to 20 square miles of land in here, of which only a certain portion has been developed. And this is part of the open space that's here. This is protected by covenants, the property owner covenants, your property owner covenants. But speaking a little bit to how we recommend management for this open space, there are all kinds of threats to our forests that aren't directly anthropogenic. They may be secondarily anthropogenic. Things like gypsy moth, white-tailed deer, spotted lanternfly, emerald ash borer, and now a certain amount of oak decline that's in here. And so we monitor all those pieces. We're still monitoring gypsy moth. It's still with us. But we know what it's doing because we monitor it each year. And in the last couple of years, we have seen oak decline. As you come up Wintergreen Drive in the winter months, you will see dead trees here and there on either side. And you may see these on your lot, on your land. And so we always have science backup. We had Virginia Division of Forestry with us here this year looking at all of this. And we have 12 scientists on our Science Advisory and Education Committee who also look with us. They look over our shoulder. We're so fortunate to have this kind of professional oversight. And we're not actually sure what's causing some of the oak decline. We're not sure yet. Nobody seems to know exactly. There are all kinds of small factors that are in there. So what's affecting our forest long term? What's going to be here? Well, we have a climate study going on that has sites between the valley and the top of Crawford's Knob that are measuring mean annual temperature, and that is a National Science Foundation grant with one of our scientists. And we're just starting on it, but we'll get some idea of long-term climate change to see if that's impacting any of this. It's really hard sometimes to say it's absolutely climate change, but over time, with species changes that may or may not occur, you can begin to equate some of the changes with climate change. One of the things we want to do is we want to be ahead of the game here. We want to understand this forest well enough to be situated to recommend management and how to protect it, because it's Wintergreen's greatest asset. I mean, you can ski and play tennis in many places, but Wintergreen is unique because of the open space and the forest that's here. Mountains narrow down to one ridge wide, the ecosystems, the macroinvertebrates, the wildlife that's here. We have to coexist with it because we are part of it. The other side of Crawford's, there's an incredible wetland, hundreds of acres, and that area is under a much stricter conservation easement than what the covenants cover here. And that is protected by an easement from the state of Virginia and an easement with the Nature Foundation, and the Nature Foundation is the legal manager of those wetlands. And that area is sort of like this mountain was before it was developed. And you've got suites of plants that are in ecosystems that are probably almost 5,000 years old. Not the plants, but the assemblage of plants. So that's a special site we need to protect. And then we need to understand what's going on in this forest. As you hike our 40 miles of trail system, as Josh does, our forester, you pick up on things. And many of our volunteers report in with what they're seeing and what they're finding. But it's a very active sort of management that we pursue here. And it really contributes to the most unique aspect of Wintergreen. Now, we're sitting in the Shamokin Springs Nature Preserve now, and I just wanted to add that the research that we do to try to enable us to protect Wintergreen's open space is connected with the educational piece. And you have to educate. Education is so important, whether you're educating the next generation of children, school children, the teachers, the interns that we have, or all of you as owners. Helping you better understand why we are doing this and what it takes to do it. Because we as scientists, we don't always make the decisions, we provide the data. And it takes education for people to listen and understand that data. And we do a lot of that. This ecosystem here is thousands of years old, and the Nature Preserve was destined for development. But because it was unique, and we were able to pull it out of development. And this was the vision of the founders. Don Faulkner and others had this vision for Wintergreen. But the education piece is important. And the only other thing that I need to say is thank you for all of you that support the Nature Foundation, whether you're members, your annual gifts, your endowment gifts, serving on the board, being a volunteer, and then of course to the staff. Thanks to all of you who make the effort to help us do what we need to do to protect the uniqueness of Wintergreen.